Hi everyone, JJ here. Welcome back. Well, I say welcome back. I haven't posted on this channel, The Art of Value Politics. I'm changing it to The Art of Value Politics Unfiltered, where I can say whatever I want, hopefully within the confines of what I'm allowed to say on this platform, but generally about politics but also technology, comedy, whatever. I'm going to be reacting to news. So sit back. It's going to be more of like an hour or so. We'll see how it goes. I'm just going to say whatever I want. And if you are a viewer of the other channel, a subscriber of my other channel, The Art of Value Politics, it's a different format from that. I do one video a day, 5 days a week. So I'm fitting this in probably in the weekend or whenever I can in the week. And what I think I'll do is post this when I can be in the comments, commenting, premiering it. So it's sort of like a live stream when it comes to that. So if you're into that, sit back and relax. It's more of a podcast style here, long format, and as I said, unfiltered. So I'll just say whatever I want, and probably some swearing involved considering the news that's going on. And I'm going to go through some of the main stories that are happening right now. And maybe if you're watching this later, will be relevant. So, this one that's going on right now, Trump puts extra 100% tariff on China imports, adds export controls on critical software. So this is the first time I'm reading these stories, by the way. I saw the headlines and I thought they might be interesting for you and for me. So it's kind of fresh. And there's a number of stories. Let's see what this one's about. I saw the stock market really went down. This is the next story. Stocks tumble in Wall Street's worst day since April after Trump threatens more tariffs on China. And it has to be said the stock market's pretty much been going straight up since about April. It's just been in a kind of situation where people are starting to think that a down day is bad, a correction's never going to happen. I mean, there's a lot of talk of an AI bubble, of course. I do think it is, but it's funny how there's so many stories about the bubble that maybe it won't happen. If there's consensus on something, it tends not to happen, or as a surprise anyway. I mean, what could happen? There are a lot of different scenarios. I mean, I am a stock investor, so I'm going to talk about that too. I'll talk about whatever the hell I want to here. And what I think is possibly going to happen is definitely an AI bubble. I'm off on a tangent already, but that's okay. This is just news stories are really just for me to talk about what I want to as a lead in. So the stock market AI bubble, I think what could happen, there's Nvidia and other companies. And if it's like the dot-com bubble, as different people are saying, Paul Tudor Jones, who's a pretty famous a trader, not he's an investor, but he's a trader. He thinks that there could be this AI market going straight up like the dot-com bubble. Then it could be a blow off top, sort of an unknown period of how long, but he thinks the ingredients are in place for it to take off and really have this blow off top like the dot com bubble did, and then a big crash. And then, after that, it did take a few years to regenerate. And then actually we got these big companies out of it. We got Amazon and Google and all that out of it in the end. So I think there's definitely that could happen. But now there's been so many stories about that. But there are some prominent players in that do think it's a bubble, including Jeff Bezos. I've seen him say that. Sam Altman, who's the CEO of OpenAI, and Peter Thiel. There's a story about Peter Thiel here. He's been talking about the Antichrist, which is pretty funny. We'll get to that in a minute if you're interested in that. This is the headline. Peter Thiel calls Greta, is it Thunberg? I think it's Thunberg, not Thunberg. Peter Thiel calls Greta Thunberg AI critics legionnaires of the Antichrist. He's been giving lectures. But let's go back to this one. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. And let me just have a drink of water. So did I say there's going to be no editing at all on this? So I say relax, or if you want to hear this faster, feel free to increase the speed. I quite often listen to things on 1.5 speed. I find that quite comfortable. Sometimes or 1.75 if somebody's talking really slowly. Say if they're from one of the states that in the US that tend to talk slowly. I have noticed that Texas is one of those. A lot of Texans seem to talk pretty slowly. So I have no problem at 2 speed. And when I take it back to 1.0 speed, it's like, come on, hurry up, hurry up. Anyway, so I tend to talk fast. That's probably because I drink quite a lot of coffee. Anyway, let's get back to the story. President Donald Trump announces a 100% tariff on all Chinese imports starting November 1, 2025, due to China's export controls on rare earth elements. So, those rare earths are used in quite a few things, including electric cars, even wind turbines, stuff like that. And so, there's a lot of talk about where these rare earths going to come from because China's got a stranglehold on a lot of it. But I see them, mining being developed in different places, including in Australia, like lithium. And Trump's announcement led to significant drop in the US stock market, with the Dow losing nearly 900 points. And not many people care about the Dow these days. It's about the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ index, really. The NASDAQ has gone up in 6 months. I think it's gone up over 50%, which is a huge amount in any year. It's not to be forgotten. Talking about a bubble, I think the last time that happened, or one of the last times that happened, was, I think, during the dot-com bubble. I think it was something like 1997, which, that wasn't near the burst of the bubble. China's restrictions on rare earths exports have raised tensions on ongoing trade talks between the US and China. I think it takes a long time to develop mines for rare earths. That's part of it. It takes 5 years or more to get a mine going. I've heard, different mining scenarios, different places that are trying to get it going. So, people don't have to buy from China and have this strangled hold. Experts suggest this could escalate trade wars affecting both economies and global market stability. And talking about the economy in China, that has had a run up. I mean, the stock market, not the economy. Well, I don't know about the economy. It's been going well, but the stock market has been on a tear. Did this one video on the other channel about Alibaba, which has gone up well over 100%. I think it's close to 150% this year. I mean, it went way down into the depths. But anyway, so that's the big news today. That's not sort of long-lasting news. And here's the follow-up to that one. As I said, stocks tumble in Wall Street's worst day since April after Trump threatens more tariffs on China. On Friday, if this is I'm recording this on Saturday my time in New Zealand, so it'll be Friday night here, and I'll post this a bit later, probably tomorrow. The worst day since April after President Trump threatened a large tariff increase on Chinese imports. Upset over China's rare earth curbs, President Trump wrote on Truth Social that other countries were extremely angry and said there seemed to be no reason to meet Xi Jinping. 4 out of 5 S&P 500 stocks fell, and Levi Strauss plunging 5.4% despite strong profits, and Dell Technologies sinking 5.2% amid big tech and anti-intelligence Freudian slip there. Artificial intelligence sector losses. US crude sank 4.2%. Brent crude dropped 3.9%. Okay, the Federal Reserve has penciled in several more rate cuts through next year, while the University of Michigan's preliminary survey found consumers' inflation expectations edged down. Okay, so this is interesting. The rate cuts, in terms of the stock market, when rates go down, that tends to make the stock market go up. Although that's, you can't predict. I think it was Ray Dalio, and there's a story about him here talking about a possible civil war in the US. But he's a billionaire investor. I think he's kind of retired now. He's written a book about all this stuff, and he thinks the possibility of a civil war. I mean, What's been going on in the US is pretty horrific, I have to say. So, I mean, I wouldn't say no that it couldn't possibly happen, and some people seem to want it to happen, sort of cheering it on from some points of view, which seems crazy. I think this is Steve Bannon probably wants one. Elon Musk seems to want a civil war in the UK. So there's one reason why I want to do this kind of podcast to see, well, not to see if it actually happens. Am I going to be making episodes through that? I hope not. I hope we don't see any kind of civil war. I mean, January 6th, when you look back on that, I mean, that was, if you saw that, if you didn't know the context or anything that was going on, and you saw that, you know, what was going on, you'd think that was an insurrection and a start of a civil war. Maybe it was. It's just kind of happening, unfolding slowly. Now we've got the National Guard on the streets, and Trump deploying troops. I never thought I'd see the day that the normalization of troops on the streets in the US. Which is one of the reasons that I want to do this podcast. Follow that sort of thing. Anyway, this headline I think is pretty amusing. Peter Thiel calls Greta Thunberg AI critic legionnaires of Antichrist. This is crazy what Peter Thiel's been doing. And I'm sort of interested in Peter Thiel because he has had an impact, or he's had, or at least media, been in the media in New Zealand in particular, which I guess a lot of people around the world didn't see when he became a citizen. He made a big fuss of saying he wanted to live in New Zealand or invest here, and he basically bought citizenship in New Zealand. He bought some land down the South Island, very picturesque place. Bought some land, wanted to build a house. I've seen architectural pictures of there's kind of a lodge, but high tech, architecturally designed bunker almost. I think there's stuff underground, but he is kind of an escape kind of bunkerish type place, and he basically bought citizenship. So that's the background here in New Zealand, and he is a citizen. So it's kind of as an escape route if things, go badly, go pear-shaped in the US, I think. That's what he was thinking at the time, but he seems to have gone cold on it. But I'm sure he still owns the land. I haven't seen any news that he sold it or anything. I've actually been down there. There's like a walking track close to it, and I have seen it. I didn't go down there to see it, but I have family that live down there, and I went walking around there. Beautiful, beautiful place. You can walk for miles and miles, kilometers and kilometers along the lake, and it's pretty amazing there. During a closed 4-part lecture series at the Commonwealth Club in San Francisco, Peter Thiel warned tech limits could bring US destruction and global totalitarianism. The Washington Post reported October 10th. Just listen to this. It's kind of crazy. He's calling other people that he thinks the Antichrist sort of pseudo-religious. Is it religious? He's always been kind of a far-right figure, even in university days. He wrote the book with David Sachs called The Diversity Myth, where he's been really kind of conservative and / far to the right, and he seems to be trying to instill that in US politics. He backed J.D. Vance, of course. So if J.D. Vance becomes president, Peter Thiel's probably going to have quite a lot to do with it. Concerned about one world regulation, Thiel warned that an antichrist could emerge to promise to halt nuclear, AI, and climate disasters to establish global control, linking tech rules to US collapse. So he's basically, I mean, it was talked about in an interview that he had. I can't remember the reporter, but he was calling, thinking that Greta Thunberg is the Antichrist, and others saying that the Antichrist would come with a message of peace. And the journalist basically said, well, wouldn't you think that's, Palantir, the things that Palantir are doing, sort of using surveillance tools, AI tools, that would be more in line with the Antichrist. So it's like you were pointing to other people saying they're the Antichrist, but could it actually be you? I think it's so funny. And he was kind of lost for words. He said, obviously I don't, obviously I don't think that I am. In his September 15th opening lecture, Thiel named Greta Thunberg and Eliezer Yudkowsky as possible legionnaires of the Antichrist and contrasted a mad scientist Antichrist with a modern Luddite. So it's basically saying the Luddites, people who are against AI, against the kind of technology that Palantir is building, are the Antichrist. They're the Antichrist, not him who is building it or helping to build it. And Yudkowsky here, he is an AI person. He is one of the people that are warning that AI could bring on really, an end to humanity. He's saying it's dangerous. And Elon Musk has said that too, even though he's building lots of AI now, massive data centers, Colossus and Colossus 2 for XAI. So, he was one of the, I think, the signers of that letter where they wanted to pause for 6 months, and Elon was too. But you get the feeling Elon was just doing that to kind of, he was behind on AI, and then he started to get into it. He wanted to jump in, then catch up, and he's got this big rivalry with Sam Altman from OpenAI. So it seemed like, Elon's such a liar. This is unfiltered. I don't say that much on the other channel, but such a bullshitter about everything. So many things. I don't know how of those evangelicals really listen to him or believe him anymore. It's just such bullshit. A lot of the things that he says these days. And so Palantir software combs financial, travel, phone, and social media data, and Bloomberg reports FBI, Department of Homeland Security, HHS, plus several key police use it, identifying over half of US adults. Yes, so they're kind of developing a surveillance state there. And Thiel urged Elon Musk to quit the Giving Pledge, warning 200 billion could go to left-wing nonprofits that will be chosen by Bill Gates, and said Musk took the concern seriously. Oh, any excuse for them not to give money to causes, not Elon is just not really into charity at all. I don't think he's ever given anything to charity unless it is in his own interests. I think the excuse there is that I think he thinks that what he's doing with his companies is kind of, furthering humanity. Steve Jobs saw the same thing. So whatever you think of that, this is the Giving Pledge, is where billionaires, multi-billionaires, center-billionaires pledge to give their money sort of back to the world. Bill Gates is part of that. I understand why they wouldn't want to give it to Bill Gates, but Warren Buffett has. I know, I've read about that because it's charity's kind of not one of the things that he wants to spend time on. And I've said this to others talking about giving away money. I think when you get a lot of money, a huge amount of money, it's actually difficult to give away. People scoff at that, but you think about it, if you had many billions of dollars, even billions of dollars a year to give away, it's a big task to send it to the right places. It's a skill in itself. And if they're not retired, if they still want to spend time on, what they're actually making money on, if it's a tech business or whatever, then they employ other people or start a foundation, and that's what this is. A lot of people have signed the Giving Pledge to give away their money. So that's part of American capitalism, really. It's the duty to make it and then give it away. I'm talking about if they got more than they need for their families and their children's children and children's children, whatever, that they pledge to give it away. But anyway, this whole thing with Peter Thiel accusing other people of being the Antichrist, what's his game? What is he up to here? It's kind of pseudo-religious, isn't it? Bringing the Antichrist into the conversation. And he's always been interested in politics. So, what I think of this, what I think he might be doing, as Tim Dillon said, joked about, one lecture on the Antichrist would be enough, not like a series of 4. What's he trying to achieve here? I think it's mixing politics with religion. This thing of the church and state being separate. I think he's trying to blur the lines, and he did back JD Vance. I think he plays the long game, and he is political. So I think if you think of it in those terms, what is he actually trying to do? Is he trying to use religion and people like the evangelicals, not the Elongelicals, the evangelicals. I talk about the Elongelicals, those who are followers of Elon Musk or kind of worship him. But evangelicals, bringing them, I think maybe it's a political strategy where he's getting those people on board to support technology, support AI, basically support what he's doing. I think it's self-serving. That's what I see it. And he's pointing to the enemies of people he doesn't like politically, like Greta, of course, who just went on that flotilla to try and get to Gaza and got arrested by the Israeli government. And popular opinion has turned away from Israel on that. It's funny, I made one video on the other channel about that. What I've been doing on that other channel, by the way, if I could just go off on a tangent here, is I have been doing a lot of videos on Elon and Tesla. If you follow that channel, you know that. That's how it kind of built up. So there's a subscriber base that built up there, and some of those were really popular, especially during the time when he was doing Doge and becoming very unpopular, and there were boycotts and protests. So the channel built, but I just don't want to keep doing videos on Elon and Tesla all the time. So I want to have, ideally, if I'm doing it 5 days a week, 5 different topics, but I also want people to look at it. I don't want to leave behind the subscribers that are subscribed. So it's getting topics that I want to make videos about, and the audience, it sort of goes along with there's overlapping. I'm not saying going along with it, but overlapping audience, so the audience that and the participants, the community that's already there isn't alienated by the new content. So what I'm sending up trial balloons, just doing videos on different subjects. Sometimes they don't get many views and it doesn't work, but some of them that have worked have been on Joe Rogan and the Rogan Sphere. Actually better than some of the Tesla and Elon ones lately, and I do want to do want to do videos on that topic, on those kind of topics, which is good because it's comedy as well. There's comedians involved in the Rogan Sphere, but it's being highly critical of them, and politics does come into it, so it fits. So that's kind of two, and there are other ones too. I'd like to develop them more, but I'm doing. You might notice if you are subscribed to that channel, I'm doing more on that subject at the moment. Maybe even half will be on that subject. I don't know. We'll see. But I've lost my train of thought there. That was a bit of a tangent, but that's what this podcast is, unfiltered, sort of rambling. How are we doing on time? 23 minutes. I'm not going to edit. So let's get on to the next news story. I think we've talked enough about Peter Thiel. I just think it's a con in a way. Like, as I said, he's trying to get the evangelicals or the Christians on his side. I don't know if he's even Christian. Funny thing is, I saw Elon talk about he's sort of going in that way, and he knows and he probably agrees with Peter. They've been friends since the PayPal mafia days, and as Elon's trans daughter said, he probably hasn't. To her knowledge, he hasn't been in a church in his life. So it would be totally fake if he tried to, and I can see him making noises in that direction. But it's a con, isn't it? And I think Peter Thiel, I don't think he's Christian. I don't think these guys are Christian. I think that what Peter Thiel believes in, transhumanism, not transgender, but transhumanism, where they'll eventually hit the AI singularity, the technological singularity. We'll be able to, but probably more them, as they're thinking, just the very rich people, tech billionaires, will be able to upload their minds to the cloud or wherever to live for eternity. But that's a big stretch for normal people to get their head around. It's too weird. So I think he's come up with this other way into that, where it's sort of pseudo-religious or religious, where the political enemies are the Antichrist or a few of them. I mean, I don't know if people are going to go for this, but I'm following the story because it's ridiculous. I mean, I'd like to do a video on the other channel, but I did one where about Tim Dillon criticizing. I did one there, and it was okay, mediocre. So I know the audience. A lot of people don't know who Peter Thiel is, I think, but I've been following what he's been doing for years, actually, in Palantir and his book 0 to 1, where he talked about competition. He did this lecture at Stanford called "Competition is for Losers," which for investing, it's interesting because I mean, obviously, investors want to invest in companies that are monopolies or duopolies because obviously it's like goes back to the game Monopoly, doesn't it? I'm playing this game with my family at the moment. Actually, we're enjoying what's it called? Monopoly Deal. It's just there's no board. It's just cards where it's got the similar stuff on it, but it's a card game which we're quite enjoying. I think it's called. I don't even know what it's called. Monopoly Deal, I think. So this one, let's move on to this story here. Nobel Peace Prize winner Machado. Is it Machado? Let's see what the operating system. Let's see what the operating system says here. Hold on a minute.
Machado.
Machado. Is it Machado or Machado? I don't know. Dedicates award to Trump. By the way, when I do premiere this, I'll try and premiere it as I said, so there'll be a chat. I don't think many people will be in the chat to begin with, but I do want to build community on this channel with this podcast. I will make this a podcast. I guess I'll call it Politics Unfiltered, or The Art of Value Politics Unfiltered, which is a long name, so maybe TAOV Unfiltered, Politics Unfiltered, I guess. So I will turn that into in YouTube, you can have a separate category called podcast. So it's on the main channel and also as a podcast. But I don't think I'll put it on any platforms yet separately. I'll see how it goes. Maybe in time, I'll upload them to Spotify. Spotify has video now, so that is good. So let's get back to this. So Nobel Peace Prize winner Machado. What is it again?
Machado.
Machado. Is that right, though? It seems like it should be Machado. Dedicates award to Trump. What? Oh, I saw this and went, what? And, Trump's been trying to angle for the Peace Prize, for getting the Peace Prize, Nobel Peace Prize, and it's just such a joke. He says, oh, I've solved wars, and then there's the Gaza thing, but really, they've been blowing up what could be fishing boats from Venezuela. So, I mean, Maria Corina Machado, the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize winner, dedicated the award on October 10, 2025 to the people of Venezuela and President Donald Trump. The Norwegian Nobel Committee cited Machado's decades-long activism, honoring her tireless work promoting democratic rights and a peaceful transition from dictatorship to democracy. In the past year, Machado has been forced to live in hiding in Venezuela and supported President Donald Trump's military pressure on Nicolas Maduro, including a major US naval deployment. So this is pretty problematic. I mean, does she know that what they've been doing in the Caribbean, blowing up boats, extrajudicial killings? Does she know that? I mean, it's pretty crazy that people who get Nobel Peace Prizes or are up for them. I think Obama got one, didn't he? Did he get one? I think he got it. That's probably why Trump wants one, to outdo Obama. And he was doing like drone attacks. Just hundreds and hundreds of drone attacks. How can somebody do that and still get the Nobel Peace Prize? Shortly after the announcement, you'll see that I'm happy to criticize both sides of US politics, by the way, on any side of politics, anywhere, really. I call it as I see it. As I said, unfiltered. I mean, that's what Obama did not cover himself in glory with the drone attacks and the spying, this domestic spying. Didn't Edward Snowden stuff happened while he was president, and Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State. Shortly after the announcement, White House Communications Director Stephen Chung said the Nobel Committee placed politics over peace, and Caroline Levitt amplified Machado's message on official X accounts. Politics over peace. Oh, that's my. If you can hear that, this is my earbuds. AirPods 2 Pro. It making this noise. I don't know why. I turned off the sounds on this case, but it still makes it. Trying to connect to my phone or the computer. I don't know. Got to fix that. It's crazy. Does anybody else have that problem? I'll have to read I've got the instructions somewhere. They're not very big, but I have to I can't be bothered. But it's annoying in the middle of the night. Sometimes whenever I touch the case, it does that. Is anybody else having that problem, or is it just me? Okay, so that's that. It seems crazy to me. I don't know who else was up for the Peace Prize, but I know Trump wanted it. It's a joke. Such a joke. I mean, the US is turning authoritarian. I've done videos on this channel, short videos about his ICE thug Gestapo, and he's sending in troops to cities. He should not be thinking about getting the Peace Prize. Anybody should not think about it. Okay, Trump administration fires at least 4.1K federal workers in shutdown layoffs. So it's like a continuation of Doge. This is like using the opportunity. Well, let's read it. I haven't read this summary. The Trump administration is preparing to cut at least 4,100 federal employees during a partial government shutdown, according to court documents filed in California. Federal employee unions have filed a lawsuit seeking to halt the layoffs, claiming the government lacks authority for such actions during the shutdown. In a declaration, Stephen Billy estimated that 4.1 to 4.2 thousand positions across various agencies are potentially affected by the layoffs. President Trump warned that if the shutdown continues, it could lead to permanent cuts. Okay, so this seems to me, you remember the whole Doge thing with Elon being involved in Doge, and they're just slashing workers, slashing essential workers, like even people who were taking care of the nuclear weapons, people in NOAA, which tracks the weather, and there was argued that when there was a storm, I think it was in Texas, wasn't it? And the school camp of girls, or I don't know if it was a school, got swept away. That the warnings about that were slow because of what Elon did with Doge. There have been so many other incidents like that. The USAID cutting funds and people dying because of that. So this seems like Trump's trying to find a way to make even more cuts. And the ones that Elon did, he seemed to do a lot of damage, but it didn't save a lot of money. That's what that boiled down to. So anyway, let's move on. That's enough of that. This one here is the next story. 22 states are in recession or on the brink, Moody says. And presumably, Moody's is a pretty reliable source. And speaking of sources, this says the center, left, right, center. You'll notice that on the stories that I'm saying. Well, I might talk about this later. I'm not an affiliate to this app, but I do like it. Maybe we'll become an affiliate. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But this is where I'm getting the news stories from. It's good because it shows the bias on each story. Anyway, I'm not going to give an ad for it at this point. They can pay me if they want to. Last month, Moody's Analytics chief economist Mark Zandi said almost half of US states face downturns, with 22 contracting, 16 growing, and 13 treading water. So Trump's talking about how great the economy is, but is it? I made one video on the other channel that actually did well about the Las Vegas economy tanking. I know for a fact it must be. In my experience, I wanted before the Trump administration came back in, I wanted to go to the US. I wanted to visit. I've got a lot of viewers there from the other channel now, and it'd be good to do meetups and stuff like that. It'd be good to do that, and a number of other things I wanted to do there, but there's no way I'm going there. especially after the videos that I've made. I end up in a detention center because they looking at my YouTube or whatever. I mean, I'm just not going to go there. I'm not going to do that. And so, we have a lot of people like that. Like tourism has dropped off hugely, I think, and you can see that. And maybe this has got something to do with it. But I was wondering if states like Florida, which gets a lot of tourism, maybe it's died down. I'm sure it's not only tourism, but is there a recession coming? 22 states are in recession or on the brink. This is the story. Three factors: slowing immigration, tariffs, and federal job cuts are driving contractions, while private surveys during the government slowdown show weakening consumer confidence. Despite national GDP growth of 3.8% and unemployment of 4.3%, large states such as California, Texas, and New York are still growing and keeping US growth positive. So large states like California, Texas, and New York. Okay. But sounds like some of the smaller ones are not doing so well, in trouble. I mean, gee, it's getting to the point where can you believe the figures? You know how we don't believe the figures coming out of China sometimes, or quite often, depending what it is. Is it getting to the point with the rising authoritarianism in the US? Can we believe it? I mean, it's supposed to be separate, right? Jerome Powell's supposed to be separate and independent, but I'm sure Trump can try and hide some of the figures if he doesn't want them released. In the District of Columbia, Zandy notes the sharpest contraction due to federal layoffs and funding cuts, while lower income households remain financially precarious and lagging wage growth this year. Looking ahead, inflation, persistence, and big state performance pose key risks as Michael Barr, Federal Reserve Vice Chair, warned inflation could persist through 2027, and Mark Sandy and California and New York could decide the national outcome. They're talking about, cutting rates to help what? Does that would stimulate the economy and stimulate the stock market, but the stock market doesn't need stimulating, or at least unless this correction keeps turning. I think if there's an AI bubble bust, it's not going to happen yet. That would be my guess, but it's not investment advice, and I don't know. My guess that as I think what happened in the dot-com bubble, there's definitely corrections happen and then it takes off again, and that wouldn't surprise me. I think there's a lot of momentum to this whole AI growth. There are a lot of people saying that it's all justified and it's going to keep going. It's just, is it different this time? I don't know. All right, let's move on. The billionaire investor warns of surging debt, says civil war developing in the US. So this is something he said before. This is Ray Dalio, who's Bridgewater Associates founder, warned on Friday in a Bloomberg interview that rising debt and wealth gaps are driving a civil war of some sort developing in the United States. Wealth gaps. So wealth gaps, yes, inequality is really high, perhaps as high as it has been for a long time. And there's definitely tension. You can see it when you go onto Elon's app X. I mean, I do use it. I'm on Blue Sky as well. Excuse me, and I'm on X, and you can see it on X. There's just a lot of fighting. The algorithm feeds it to you. That's part of this whole algorithmic driven rage where they want you to rage against each other to get advertising money, more engagement, more time on the app. But it's pretty extreme on X. Like I just saw one thing and I got so much more of it almost straight away. Like it's pretty insane what's going on there with how they seem to be encouraging the hate, the arguments, and could that actually start a civil war? I mean, it has been argued that Facebook, like in the Philippines, There was one I saw somebody from the Philippines, an academic there, who it was at an authoritarian regime. I think that's changed a bit now, but Facebook was responsible for some terrible stuff that happened there. To this increased outrage and engagement can have real world consequences, I think. Anyway, public data. I was saying this, another tangent. Like I play public data show. It doesn't seem right. This is another thing where I think language changes. Be more like public data shows. I think most people say that, and it sounds pretentious when you say public data show because data is, plural, but it just sounds better to say public data shows. Public debt is over $30 trillion, equaling about 99% of US GDP last year. While Dalio highlighted the debt to GDP ratio of around 125%. Using medical metaphors, Dalio compared rising debt service to plaque in the arteries that squeezes spending, and called the imbalance a debt bomb, urging tax increases and spending restraint. So Dalio's been saying this for quite a few years now. It's been 5 years, and people kind of brushed him off. Oh yeah, I remember during the pandemic, he was saying this about civil war. I guess, as I said, January 6th, the insurrection, Trump being reelected, all this kind of hate building up one side against the other. I mean, it really kind of could form into that. I hope it doesn't. Dalio warned that the debt problem could become a full-blown crisis, forcing higher interest payments or significant cutbacks as selling debt may exceed market appetite and social friction risks people hurt each other. So civil war, what do you think about this? Let me know if you are here and want to comment. I guess I said in the chat, but this channel is so small, it's monetized, but there's like 2,000 subscribers and only a percentage of those watch. So might not be many people in the chat, but hopefully there will be over time. Dalio drew historical parallels to 1937 to 1938 and pre-World War II borrowing patterns, while Nassim Nicholas Taleb, he's the guy who talked about black swan events, I believe, urged investors to hedge against a debt-driven crash. All right, civil war. I mean, wouldn't that be something that would be awful to see? But we're seeing quite a few awful things that are happening in the US, I think, in particular. Or just like authoritarianism. If I could talk about politics for a second, authoritarianism has been rising around the world in recent years. It's just crazy to me that we have the two largest economies, China and the US, really turning. Well, China has been authoritarian for a long time, maybe getting a little bit less so with the market economy developing over the past few decades, and now the US is increasingly authoritarian with Trump. Definitely is. I mean, what's horrifying to me is you go onto X and you see people really cheering it on. This whole thing, I voted for this. And it's the most, like, talking about that on the most sadistic ICE videos. They're making videos that they are sadistic. And people are saying, I voted for this, cheering it on. And it made me think of like 1930s Germany. Is this what it was like? Where people were like actually cheering on the thuggery and all that kind of jackbooted troops in the streets, or thugs in the streets, masked thugs in this case, dragging people away. I mean, and people are saying, I voted for this. And they don't, it's like the distancing from the real people, the lack of empathy. It's just, you can see how I think the population in 1930s Germany really did get sort of convinced and went swept along in the wave of propaganda. It just seems like that to me. I think it's dangerous. I know the comparison with that isn't really apt. It's nearly 100 years later from when that got going. But there are similarities and parallels. But there are other regimes. I think a lot of people don't know much about history. I sort of see people saying that, talking about Nazis as they were socialists. They weren't socialists. It was like a propaganda name to convince the people, which I think is because socialism was popular, but it was fascism. Obviously, it was fascism. Doesn't everybody know that? That was just a kind of a cover. There's nothing socialist about it. Fascism. They had deals, or special sweetheart deals with companies, and this is what's happening in the US. You see a lot of companies bending the knee to Trump, the big tech oligarchs bending the knee, so this corporatism with the government hand in hand. I mean, and then you get all this militarization of the police that's happening. I mean, there's a lot that's similar. All right, I think we've moved on with that story. The next story is this one, a tech story. Now, I did a video on the other channel, The Art of Value, about robots this week, which didn't do so well. It was about I noticed that they were doing combat between robots, and there was like Tesla Optimus robot doing kung fu, but it was kind of fake kung fu like that. It was just programmed movements, and the person fighting them it's almost like they knew the movements, they were practicing to make it look like fighting, but it was not autonomous. But there's been cage matches of fighting, boxing between robots and other kind of fighting boxing, which is, I guess it is a marketing thing because it looks exciting. But this one hasn't been doing a figure, which I think is based in Texas. I saw one of the guys from Dumb Money TV. What's his name? It evades me at the moment, but he is invested in the company, and he has written Chris Camillo is his name, and he's been talking about robots and talking it up. But he's another trader, high risk trader who's done very well. But it's one way to invest that I do not really enjoy. Figure unveils Figure 3 humanoid with tactile hands, palm cameras, and factory plan. The latest. Figure unveils Figure 3 humanoids robot yesterday, featuring advanced tactile sensors, soft design, and AI integration. When they say yesterday, it was a few days ago now. I think it was Thursday. Plans to produce 100,000 units over 4 years at San Jose facility. Now, there are other robots. In that video I made, the Chinese robots, Unitree is already selling humanoid robots. I think it's just over $20,000 US. You can even get one shipped. I guess that has tariffs on it. Maybe this will change it, what Trump's just been announcing. Perhaps that's part of it. But I think they have a $6,000 version, which would be basic. I mean, there's basically novelty toys. I can see people having them at home and playing around with them. I mean, I suppose you could even make money from it if you could say, $10, $20, if somebody could control it for a while. I don't know. You can imagine that as an early adopter thing, people, doing that to get their money back. Why it matters, this says, designed for both home and industrial use, Figure 3 can perform delicate tasks like laundry and food service with human-like dexterity, featuring wireless charging and washable coverings for practical daily use. Yeah, I've seen that. They have this kind of soft coverings to make it look like they've got clothes on, so they're not so harsh and robot-looking, which they did kind of borrow off another company. What's it called? Can't remember what it's called. There's another company that's based in Norway, I think, or Denmark or Norway, and they've got an office in the US as well. But I guess that's the way it'll go. So they're friendlier and softer, kind of, and they've got different outfits, that kind of thing. But does anybody really want one of these in their house? I certainly don't want one from Elon Musk in my house, techno-fascist that he is. So, production focus. Industry observers and sources constantly highlight Figure's unprecedented commitment to mass manufacturing and widespread acknowledgement that this represents a shift from prototype-focused development to scalable production. This is what Elon's been saying, or other people, investors have been saying, that they can scale the robot. So they're the leader because they can scale it. Elon's good at scaling manufacturing, but I don't think it's going to be that easy. And there seem to be Chinese companies that are way ahead in terms of agility of the robots. We saw Optimus that was kind of walking slowly and taking 10 minutes to respond when it was asked a question. I guess it's got a version of Grok AI in there. I mean, there are other, but I don't think Tesla's ahead. But the stock price of Tesla's just gone nuts. I think it's a meme stock at the moment. Not financial advice at all, but it's what it seems like to me, that Tesla's just, the stock price is so high compared to what they're actually producing. It's all future, bro. Trust me about the future. Trust Elon about the future, and everything will be fine. You can't count the guy out. You have to say that he can pull a rabbit out of the hat, but it's just he's just sort of layering on this future project after future project. It's going to be good. It's going to be great, and then moving on. Seems the big pivot's really to AI. That's where the money is. That's where the funding is, and so he's trying to do that. Meanwhile, the vehicle sales aren't going well. There's intense competition, and I don't want to talk about this too much on this channel because I talk about it enough, and I'm kind of sick of myself talking about it. But anyway, so what are we up to? We're kind of 10 minutes left. We're in the home stretch. Anyway, that was interesting. I think the new robot and this competition. It's not just Tesla. All right, this one here, still about the tech billionaires again. BBC raises questions over billionaires' reported plans for AI era bunkers. Now, I talked about Peter Thiel. Perhaps I should have put these two stories together, but Peter Thiel plans for that in New Zealand, I think. That was part of it. And, well, there's the story there. Sorry, it's not on the screen. In recent years, Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of Meta, has developed a 1,400-acre Kulau ranch on Kauai, Hawaii, featuring a 5,000 square foot underground shelter and 11 Palo Alto properties with 7,000 square feet underground space, costing about $101 million, which is pocket change for him. But that's pretty incredible. Just think about that. 1,400-acre ranch and a 5,000 square foot underground shelter. I think he brushed this off, saying it's not big, it's small. But I mean, why are they building these underground shelters? It's kind of like, it's pretty dystopian, isn't it? If things go badly, they're actually building these things, not just thinking about it or talking about it. And a 7,000 square foot underground ranch. I mean, I was thinking about this practically. If something happened and they were to go into these bunkers, I mean, what? How long do they expect to survive? What is the point if the world's kind of being destroyed? Is it they can stay there for years and everything will be okay? Say, are they thinking about civil war? Are they thinking about an AI apocalypse? What is this actually for? And I was thinking about Peter Thiel when he was building one, or he wanted to build one in New Zealand. Like, practically, it's like if something happened in the US, right? I guess the idea is, if the civil war, if it's a nuclear thing, I guess there'll be no time. I guess they'd take off. But realistically, it's a private jet. Getting your private jet pilot to fly you to the other side of the world. If you were coming to New Zealand, you have to. I don't think a private jet could come all the way. You'd have to stop, like in Hawaii or Fiji or somewhere like that, to get here. I mean, it's just the logistics of it. I guess they've thought it through, but I mean, this is pretty insane, isn't it? That they're talking about like an apocalypse bunkers, for goodness sake. Was it Armageddon or Apocalypse? I heard a saying the other day, somebody on a podcast, I can't remember which one, like the difference. Which would you rather have, Apocalypse or Armageddon? And Armageddon's better because it's like the final battle. It's not the actual apocalypse. Apocalypse, it's all over. So again, a kind of this pseudo-religious thing. Now, Sam Altman, OpenAI CEO, has warned AGI will arrive sooner than most people in the world think, while Ilya Sitskova. Yes, it's Sitskova, Elias Sitskova, who's another top AI person. I think he worked at OpenAI and now he's started his own company. Urged shelters, and Reid Hoffman called them apocalypse insurance. But it's not apocalypse insurance. They can't. Apocalypse means that the world would be seriously ending or for human life kind of thing. So I don't think it's just going to. I mean, what kind of life is it, even if you've got your own luxury bunker? I mean, even if Peter Thiel had one in New Zealand, good luck getting staff to help out with all the goods and services. What about that? You have to have like local community. It's in quite a remote place where his land and thing is. There's a town there. There is a town there. It's Wanaka, and it's not a big town. And in an apocalypse situation, what's going to happen to that town? I mean, how's that even work? It doesn't make any sense. Documents and local reports reveal secrecy measures with non-disclosure agreements for builders, a 6-foot wall shielding sites, and permits referring to basements. Peter Thiel's New Zealand bunker plans were blocked by New Zealand Lakes Council. Queenstown Lakes Council, yes. So it's Queenstown and Wanaka are those two towns down there. Queenstown is the bigger one. Yes, I saw that it was blocked. He wanted to build this and it was blocked by what he would call NIMBY fascist kind of thing. And people say it's difficult to build in California. It's kind of, I mean, it's the thing about it, you have to realize that it's a pristine kind of area, not pristine. When you build, you have to do it so if, say, somebody's on the other side of the lake or on the next ridge, like the houses can't be like brightly colored and sticking out. The idea is to fit into the landscape. And I mean, the plans I saw, it did look like it was kind of round. If you saw it from a distance, I mean, it looked pretty cool, to be honest. I actually thought it was pretty good fitting into the landscape the way he'd done it, honestly. But obviously it did get blocked. The people that don't want it. All right. I think that's all I wanted to say today. So if you have, put your camera move there. This is if you want to comment, do comment on this video, early days. Tell me what you think of this. Talking for an hour is kind of exhausting over the weekend, but I think I'll do it. I think I'll turn this into a podcast. It's an hour long form, no editing whatsoever, whatever the mistakes are in it, whatever. So let me know what you think of this. Do you think that it's, something that you want to listen to? It's kind of this is one that, say, if you're on YouTube, you'd have I guess YouTube Premium, so you don't have ads or whatever, or I will put it on different platforms. I'll probably put it on Spotify eventually, but let me know what you think of this format. I would really like to know. And also, I might as well talk about this. I'm going to, before we get up to the hour, this here, that artwork right there, I've done one artwork based on the thumbnails of my podcast. I am an artist, if you didn't know that. I do 2D work sometimes. I've done a lot of it, paintings. I did I got a merit award in the National Contemporary Art Competition here in New Zealand a few years ago, and I have done a lot of art. I did a master's degree in art, went to art school. And, that was an accident, but do like this video, by the way, if you have liked it. I didn't say that throughout. So this is the thumbnails. This is inkjet print on canvas, and it worked. It was kind of an experiment. The inkjet printing's got pretty good these days, I have to say. And so I'll be doing more. I'm going to do a bigger one with more on it. This one, if you look at it, it's pretty small, isn't it? It's actually bigger than it looks on the wall there, but I'm going to do a bigger one next. Inkjet print. I don't know if I'll sell them. It's just for my own studio here. In this studio here, this is the house that we built a few years ago. Finished in beginning of 2023, and this is like the art studio / podcast studio here, if you were wondering. So keep an eye out for that. I will be doing another one soon, I think. And also, I would like to say I'm going to put a related video on screen. I'm not sure there's a related video. I'll put the closest, or I'll let YouTube decide what it is. You can get YouTube to decide what the related video is here. And also a subscribe link. Do subscribe to this channel. and to follow if you want to get more of these kinds of videos from me in the future. And I want to say thanks for watching this long one. If you've got this far, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.